This is a project I did last fall. My parents wanted a platform for their bed. They had gotten a nice mattress, but it was just on the floor, and they felt it was just a little bit too low. They wanted something really simple. It didn't have to be fancy, and they didn't want a headboard or a footboard. The idea was to make a simple platform for their mattress. So my thought was to make a frame out of 2x8s and build a sort of lattice platform in that frame to hold the mattress. So I straightened the edge pieces by running them first through the joiner and then through the planer. So the joiner gets one face flat, and the planer makes the other face parallel to the first face. Then I could cut the pieces closer to length, and I mounted them on the CNC machine. So my thought was to do sort of a fat finger joint at the corners of the frame. I cut out one side of that joint along the long sides. I did a roughing pass. And once the roughing pass was done, I did a finishing pass, which probably wasn't super necessary on this side. To some degree, it's just habit. Then I cut the other sides. So this will be the side that fits into the first part that I cut. Now here, the finishing pass allowed me to sneak up on the right fit. The first time it was a little too tight, so I took off a little bit more material, and then it fit about right. I don't want it to be really tight, as this joint isn't really what's going to hold the corner together. It's more decorative. When I had mounted these pieces to the CNC table, I used both my hold-down clips and some carefully placed screws. I had located the spots within the cutouts that I was going to make in the side of the frame, and I could put the screws in the center of those cutouts, so I wouldn't have a screw hole in the finished piece. So the other thing that I wanted to cut out on the CNC machine was some vent holes along the side of the frame, as this won't be up on legs, so I'll be trapping air under the mattress. So I cut out some butterfly shapes to allow air to pass into the space under the mattress. I did a roughing pass, and then I cleaned up the sawdust. I have some little metal pokers things. I'm not quite sure what these are called. I think they're for dental work. But they work nicely for getting the sawdust out of the cuts on the CNC machine, as the down cutting bits and the compression bits tend to pack the sawdust in really tightly, so it doesn't just come out with the vacuum. And it's just kind of fun to dig the sawdust out. So now I can pull the centers of the cutouts out. I can take the screws out. I have little bridges between the inside and the outside of the cutouts, so I can break those and pull the centers out. The cutout in the rail looks like a butterfly, but the cutout from the hole looks like a bat. With the piece held from the outside with my hold-down clamps, I can now do a finishing pass on these cutouts. And this will clean up the bridges at the bottom of the cutouts. The other thing I wanted to cut into the two ends were two slots that would hold some support beams for the center of the mattress. So I cut those as well. I can start to lay out the pieces that I have and see if my corners go together. And I pulled everything tight, the clamp. And I can put my center supports in. You can see how those are going to work. I rounded over the top edge of the rails on the frame so they wouldn't have a sharp corner. Then I did a little sanding. Then I put finish on. I used a water-based finish, which I didn't really like as much because it sits on the surface and doesn't really soak in so much. It's more like a paint that's clear. But it didn't smell. It was a very low VOC finish. So I figured since it was a bed, I didn't want it to be off-gassing very much. That's why I chose something like this. And it looked good in the end. I need to make the supports for the platform that will hold up the mattress. I cut a series of slots into those pieces that will hold plywood strips in place. And those plywood strips will make up the surface that the mattress will sit on. So these slots will not hold the plywood tightly, but hold the plywood strips apart from each other. I can cut the plywood into strips. I cut the length I was going to need for the strips first. Then I cut all the strips from that piece. So once I had the strips cut, they were all at the same length. It was a lot of strip cutting. I'm going to have 4 supports for these strips. 2 of the supports are going to be along the side rails of the bed, and 2 of them are going to be in the middle of the bed. So to make the 2 along the sides, I will cut the 2x4 in half and make it into the 2 rails. I can put the bed back together, and you can see how the supports go in the middle. And I can use them to clamp the corners tight together. So the long dark clamp is holding the length of the bed together, and then the red clamps are holding the width together. Now the only thing that's actually going to be holding this entire system together are these 4 metal corner brackets that will hold the frame together. Platform supports I cut to the right length, and I had to cut a little notch out of each end to take up the space of the metal bracket at the corners. And I countersunk some holes for screws, and I can attach these to the sides. So what was important to keep track on these was the head and the foot, and keeping the spacing of the cutouts in the same place across the width of the bed so that the strips will fall into place, which they did. So you can see how the supports hold the strips. I was beginning to think at this point that I probably wasn't going to have enough support in the middle of the bed, as my center supports were just 2x4s. So what I decided I could do is make some blocks that would just sit in the middle of the bed and hold up the center of those supports. I made some blocks out of some sequoia that I have. This is the same sequoia I've been using over the years, from the same tree. So I basically made a block and then cut some notches in that block that the supports running across the bed will fit into. Now I can load everything up to take it over to my parents' house. I have the strips and the blocks for the strip supports, and then the center strip supports. The 2 ends of the bed, so the head and the foot of the bed. And I've been careful to slide these on the non-finished surface. Then the 2 side rails. So the support pieces are already attached, and the metal brackets are already attached to these. And some tools I might need. And it's off to grandmother's house. So I could bring in all the parts and start laying things out. We spent a bunch of time trying to figure out how far it should be from the wall on the side. I think we got it about right in the end. So my parents had just gotten new carpet, and the carpet installers had moved the bed, so that's why the frame got made at this time. It was easy to then put the frame in and put the mattress back, as it had already been taken apart and moved. And why the room is so empty. I can check everything. And really all I had to do was screw the 4 corner brackets into place. And all of the other parts are held in place with gravity. So I can just put the blocking under the center supports, and the center supports fall into place. Then it's just a matter of laying out the strips. And Mom came in to help with that. It all went together. And we had a platform. And we made sure it was in the right place. And we really made sure it was in the right place. Then we could put the mattress back down. So this is a fairly tall mattress, so we didn't want a whole lot of height with the bed frame. I like in the end how the fact that I use lumber works with the kind of big detailing of the bed frame. It kind of has that campy log cabin kind of feel. I think it turned out well. Thanks for watching.